Sulawesi, the ancient animistic religions have survived. But in most of the islands, they died, swamped by the faiths that were brought here from India. And that conquest is reenacted symbolically and dramatically every year in Bali. Hinduism began to win converts in Java and Bali about 1,300 years ago. At that time, according to legend, the people were terrorized by a giant king, Sang Maya Denawa, who compelled them to worship in certain ways. Perhaps he symbolized the animistic gods and demons who had cruelly demanded human sacrifices since prehistory. At any rate, the Balinese rebelled and sought help from the Indians who were already settling around their shores. There was a titanic battle in which many of the Indian warriors died heroically, but Sang Maya Denawa was finally vanquished. Today, Hinduism has a firmer hold on the people of Bali than on any other people in the whole of Southeast Asia. Every village has its temple where the Hindu gods are worshipped and given offerings. Every village also has its priest, Balinese born, who understands Sanskrit, the ancient Indian script, and prays to Vishnu and Shiva. Once a year, images of those Indian warriors who came to fight Sang Maya Denawa are brought out of their temple and placed in travelling shrines, for now they themselves have become powerful spirits, devas. Some people carry offerings of dolls made of coins strung together. The warrior spirits, the devas, are brought out from the temple. They are taken down to a sacred spot by the river, there to be blessed by the priest. As the devas return, refreshed and purified, the men who carry them begin to fall into trance. By now, night is falling, and as they reach the temple, the devas are so roused that they force the shrines to rear and plunge as though they had a life of their own. Once more, the battle with Sang Maya Denawa must be fought. The forces of Hinduism must drive out the ancient demons. The gods' supporters in the crowd themselves become entranced and rush to give the gods help, waving steel daggers. They must be disarmed before they injure themselves. But that must be done with great care, for a man in trance has superhuman strength. Once again, the battle has been won. Hinduism has triumphed and the Devas can return to their temple. Yet the forces of animism against which they struggled have not been totally extinguished. For paradoxically, in the very ritual of victory, the worshippers have been possessed not by the Hindu gods, but by the spirits of the dead. Nighttime in Bali. Spirits prowl through the island. The barong, a sacred monster animated by men in trance, is on its way to do battle with Rangda, the queen of the witches, the embodiment of all that is evil. For the Balinese, it's a crucial duel on which the future of mankind could depend. The Balinese believe that their island is the very center of the universe, the home of the gods. The sun, when it rises from the sea, shines first on them and their island, where men and spirits live in a harmony that has been lost everywhere else in the world. Each morning, soon after dawn, every householder makes offerings. Cows are blessed with holy water and given special titbits as a sign of respect to the spirit that gives them life. Individual plants must also receive attention and be given offerings of tiny rice cakes. Every village has at least one temple, sometimes two or three, and throughout the year, at anniversaries and festivals, extravagant offerings of fruit and rice cakes, pig meat and chickens must be taken there. The Balinese gods are Hindu. Alone in all the islands of Indonesia, Bali has remained faithful to Vishnu, Shiva and Brahma, defending them against the forces of Islam and Christianity, which have attempted again and again over the centuries to drive them out. The gods, in their turn, have been generous to the Balinese. Their island is well watered and drenched in sunshine, and as fertile and as beautiful as any in the world. On the flanks of the mountains, the Balinese have built tier upon tier of terraces, each carefully walled with mud and constructed with such accuracy that water from the streams runs from one to another. Here, under the tropical sun, the rice seedlings grow with a speed that is almost visible. With such attention and care, the rich volcanic soil can be persuaded to yield 2 harvests each year. And when harvest time comes, the entire village goes down to the fields to help gather it in, for there are jobs for everyone. But even growing 2 harvests a year doesn't require every man to labour in the fields every hour of the day. There's plenty of time for other things. The volcanic stone is as soft as butter when it's first taken from the earth and is easily carved into figures and decorations for the temple. The Balinese are an extraordinarily gifted people. Everyone, it seems, in his spare time is either a sculptor, a painter, a dancer, or a musician. And in order to worship the gods properly, a man must practice such arts. All rituals connected with the temple demand lavish decorations and offerings which may take weeks, even months to make. So it happens that within the same part of the island, even within the same village, the preparations for several festivals may be going on simultaneously. Every year at the feast of Galungan, the spirits of the ancestors come down to spend 7 days on earth, and every village must welcome them. Giant puppets, 10 feet tall, will cavort along the streets to the temple, where they will solemnly dance in front of the shrines, and they must be decorated with flowers for the occasion. In the centre of the village, a treat for the children, though like most things in Bali, this Felis wheel has an underlying magical significance. The streets must be lined with ceremonial arches of bamboo, hung with elaborate tassels, the penyor. Women construct pyramids of flowers decorated with garlands ingeniously cut from palm leaves. The day of the week of the festival dictates the colours, and the place of that day within the very complex Balinese calendar, the number of different elements they use. And the character of the god to whom the gift will be made also affects the design, for individual gods have individual tastes. The men also build offerings, though they do so not with flowers or rice cakes, but with pig flesh. The meat roasted on long bamboo splints, the fat and the tissues of the stomach carefully pinned into a gigantic bouquet of pork. Yet more offerings are made entirely out of coloured rice. In this village, Ubud, several months ago, a prince died. His body, which has been carefully embalmed, must be given a ritual cremation. That will require a great deal of sacred paraphernalia. The figure of a naga, a mythical snake 50 feet long, an animal figure to hold the coffin, a huge tower representing the universe. The village men have been working on these for several weeks, and they are not complete even yet. The expense and the artistic skill lavished on these things is huge. But they must be made, and made well, if the prince's soul is to be released successfully from his body. The most sacred place in the whole island is Gunung Agung, the central volcano. And here one of the most important of all festivals is long overdue. The temple of Besaki stands on its flanks. This is the mother temple from which all other temples derive their spiritual power. Prayers and offerings are made here continuously throughout the year. But now there is a special intensity and urgency. The people are beginning the 2-month preparations for Ekadasa Rudra, a ceremony that must be performed every 100 years to rid the island of its accumulated spiritual pollution. People come from all over the island, bringing offerings. Some carry their musical instruments, so they may play in the temple. The priest, the pedanda, privileged by his caste and his ancestry with special knowledge of religious affairs, conducts the arcane rituals speaking mantras, magic phrases, accompanied by special gestures that only a priest can fully understand. In a neighbouring courtyard, a puppet master has set up his gods and heroes of painted buffalo hide and is recounting yet again an episode from one of the long Hindu sagas. Masked men enact other stories from the seemingly endless treasury of Hindu Javanese myth. Cockfights too are being held, not merely for sport, though they're certainly that, but because the earth requires anointing with the hot blood of an ebbing life. Just such preparations as these were being made 16 years ago, when they were suddenly and catastrophically halted. In February 1963, Mount Agung erupted. That the holiest of mountains should bring this havoc could only mean one thing: the gods were angry. One village lay directly in the path of the lava. Most people refused to leave and simply sat facing the mountain, praying. Lava approached closer and closer, but the people would not move. If their sacrifices were not enough and the gods required them to die as well, then die they would. And then the lava stopped. The crisis was over, but it had cost the lives of 2,000 people. "16 years have passed since then. The priests have debated and decided that a second attempt must be made to hold Ekadasa Rudra and cleanse the island of its century of pollution. A propitious date has been discovered and preparations are beginning again. From a remote village in the heart of the island has come one of the most ancient of orchestras, with instruments not of bronze like others, but iron. It is so magically powerful that it may only be played on special holy occasions, and its presence here is an indication of the supreme importance of the Ekadasa Rudra. As people assemble, the priest blesses and purifies them, sprinkling them with perfumed water. Sometimes offerings are placed on the altars straightforwardly and without ceremony. Sometimes the village women bring them to the shrines with dance. Before the climax of the festival, the gods of Besaki must be taken down to pay their respects to the gods of the sea. 1,000 people from particular families in Besaki village have the duty and the privilege to accompany, but thousands more will join in on the way. Some of the shrines that the villagers carry on their shoulders contain images beneath their protective shrouds. Others are seemingly empty, for the gods themselves are invisible. The journey is a long one, 20 miles or so, and it will take all day. In each village they pass through, the people greet them with offerings of food to the gods. After a pause during which the gods can extract the essence they require, the offerings can be eaten by the people of the procession. At last they reach the seashore, and the shrines are carried down to stand beside the waves. Sacrifices must be made here too. After sunset, a buffalo will be led into the water and there drowned, a sacrifice to Varuna, god of the sea. At the same time, the gods of the opposite pole of the Balinese universe must also receive their due. At Besaki, another buffalo has been led up the mountain and thrown into the crater. While the people in Besaki await the gods' return, dancing continues. The performance of a dance and the playing of music are in themselves acts of worship, and a dance that entertains the gods will surely delight the people. He performs a martial dance and portrays all the emotions that swirl through a young warrior's mind on the eve of battle: ferocity and skill, fear and courage, cunning and vigor. Dressed as a man, performs a dance of flirtation. Dances such as these follow traditions that go straight back to the courts of the Hindu princes who ruled Java in the 15th century, and before that to India. But Balinese dance is an inventive and continuously developing art. This particular dance, a virtuoso piece in which the performer plays one of the instruments of the orchestra, was devised by a great dancer a mere 40 years ago. The Tumuluningam, a love dance in which a young girl displays all the grace and charms of feminine beauty as she mimes a honeybee sipping nectar. Other dances are much older. This is the kechak, performed to the chants of men impersonating monkeys. The roots of this lie beyond Hinduism in the ancient animistic rituals in which men go into trance and become possessed by spirits of animals. And its fascination comes from the marvelously orchestrated grunts and cries of the chorus, wild yet superbly disciplined. A story, however, has been added to it, and this comes from the Hindu epic the Ramayana. Prince Rama and his wife Sita are hunting in the forest. They've seen a magical golden deer. As the troop of monkeys watch them, Rama and his queen debate as to whether or not to pursue it. Rama decides to follow the deer. The devil Ravana appears. The golden deer had been sent by him to lure Rama away, and now Sita is left alone and unprotected. During the day, sacrifices and offerings continue to be made at Baisakhi. For this, the most comprehensive of all ceremonies, the gods must be joined by the spirits of every kind of living animal that inhabits the island. As well as buffalo, there are pigs and dogs, cats and eagles, peacocks and pigeons, even spiders and fleas. And still there is dancing. New performers prepare themselves. The Balinese see no division between dance and drama. The one merges into the other. Dramatic action is expressed in movements of balletic grace, and dancers may speak dialogue, though in a highly stylized manner and often in Sanskrit. This is the story of Panji, a prince from the ancient kingdom of Singasari, who falls in love. Taking part in such performances as these is a privilege and a distinction. And this dancer, playing the part of the princess, is also, in fact, a princess in real life. Not all dances are restricted to the graceful retelling of ancient tales of courtly love. This one was originally performed before going to war. It's so ancient that it is now regarded as sacred and may only be performed within a temple. The animals are taken 3 times round the temple and then led to the central sanctuary. There they will be sacrificed, spilling their blood to ensure that the rest of their kind will continue to survive on the island and that the natural harmony of the world will be preserved. In one final act of piety, 23 Padandas from all over the island pray together for the purification of the universe. may now come to an end, and Bali may embark on a new era, purged and sanctified. The Pedandas, on whose skill in religious matters so much depends, are all Brahmins belonging to the highest caste. Among themselves they speak high Balinese that few others understand. They can even read the ancient Sanskrit texts. One of the most senior of them, who had played a major part in the Ekadasa Rudra, repeated some of the mantras he had used in the ceremony so that we could see the movements in detail. But he couldn't explain to us precisely what they meant. That was a secret matter that only a Pedanda, after a lifetime of study, could even begin to comprehend, or had a right to know. Pedandas only officiate during great ceremonies. On less grand occasions, blessings are given by the village priest, the Pemangku. A barong is being blessed. Every village possesses such a barong. While it's not exactly the spirit of goodness, it's more capricious and mischievous than that, it nonetheless has the village in its protection. Its mask and coat, magically powerful, are kept in the temple shrouded in boxes, but it often comes out to dance when orchestras, gamelans, play beside the temples. Few festivals take place without the barong putting in an appearance. Indeed, one of the first signs that something magical is stirring in the village is the sight of the barong with its attendants walking along a road. Balinese children, like children everywhere, are great mimics, and they produce their own caricatures of the gods. In so doing, they naturally absorb the steps of the dance and improvise simple music. But to play in the gamelan, they must take lessons. A gamelan may contain 30 or 40 instruments of bronze, either with keys like this amplified with bamboo resonators beneath them, or gongs laid in racks or hung in rows. The music it plays is extremely complex and fully orchestrated, but the Balinese have no musical notation, so the part of each instrument has to be learned by each player at a time and is taught by the leader of the orchestra, who holds the entire composition in his head. As one hand strikes the metal key with a hammer, the other has to follow a fraction of a second behind, dampening the note with finger and thumb. Dancers in the East, like dancers in the West, must begin their training early if their bodies are to become supple enough to perform the movements with proper grace. The dance these children are learning, the most famous and classical of all the island's dances, the legong, can indeed only be performed by small children. Anak Agung Kedai Mandra is one of the oldest and most respected teachers on the island. His method of teaching is the simple and traditional one, guiding the children's limbs and, if necessary, twisting and pulling them into the correct position. It's arduous, even painful, but nearly all little girls long to become a legong dancer, to be watched admiringly by the whole village. They may become famous for their beauty, a reputation that will stay with them even when they're grown up. The story of the legong concerns the king of the ancient land of Lassam, who, on the way to a battle, meets a bird of ill omen. This child will represent the bird. Children also take part with great enthusiasm in more earthy dramas. The music here is supplied by Jaws harps and a flute. The scene is the palace of an ancient kingdom of Java. The courtiers are gossiping. These characters, speaking in their highly formalized way, are comics, and their dialogue, which sometimes contains lots of local jokes, brings delight to everyone. The king, it seems, has a beautiful daughter, and he's having a lot of problems in deciding whom she should marry. A horde of small frogs invades the palace. And here is the king of frogs himself. He says that he wants to marry the princess. The King of the Frogs is introduced to her, but the courtiers explain that it would be impossible for such a beauty to marry such a monster. But all will be well. Before the play is over, the King of the Frogs will turn out to be, perhaps not surprisingly, a handsome prince temporarily under a spell, and he will resume his human shape, and everyone will live happily ever after. In the village of Ubud, as the time for the nobleman's cremation approaches, a legong will be danced in the temple, and the shrines must be decorated with special hangings. The little dancers must pray to cleanse their spirits and prepare themselves for the performance. They are given holy water. Their costumes are of silk, painted with gold, and they wear stiff jackets, sashes and shoulder pieces made from gilded leather. Their crowns, stiff and heavy, are also of leather, decorated with frangipani flowers. The legong is essentially a display of youthful grace and elegance, performed to music that everyone knows and conforming to standards that everyone recognizes. But there is a story attached to it which makes some sense of the ritualized steps. The King of Lassam has stolen Rankasari, a beautiful princess. The two dance together with synchronized movements, attended by their servant, who wears different colors. The little servant leaves the king and the princess alone to dance together. little girl who played the servant now reappears dressed as the bird of ill omen. The king has decided to go out and do battle with the princess's brother, but the bird warns him that if he does, he will be killed. Ignores the bird's warning, strikes it with his fan, and in so doing, seals his fate. The drama is over. Just as the life of a Balinese is filled by the arts, so its end is marked with a final act of pageantry, the cremation. In Ubud, preparations for the burning of the prince's body are complete. The action of the ceremony, in essence, could hardly be simpler. The body will be taken to the cremation ground, transferred to a pyre, and be burned. But the Balinese, with their passion for visual display and their genius for decoration, have turned those actions into a spectacle of dazzling brilliance. Every woman in the village, it seems, is on her way to the temple with offerings. The ruler of the village, the Chakoda, brother of the dead man, is also on his way to the temple where the Naga, the sacred snake, is waiting to be summoned. Only this family, the most noble on the island, has the privilege of using the Naga to carry the souls of their dead to heaven. The Naga's body is over 50 feet long, but its tail is extended many times that length by a long rope to which all those who wish to speed the soul on its journey will wish to cling. The village's log gong is sounded to mark the beginning of the rituals. The huge tower in which the body will be carried to the cremation ground is so big that it has had to be built in parts and they're not yet assembled. The top of the tower represents the heavens to which the soul will ascend. It has 9 stories, the prerogative of a nobleman. The base is shaped in the form of a turtle entwined by snakes, for this, in the Balinese belief, is the foundation on which the world stands. The coffin, swathed in white, the colour of mourning, is brought up to the tower. The Pedanda must fire arrows tipped with flowers to kill the Naga serpent, so that its spirit will be released and be ready to carry that of the dead nobleman to heaven. He fires shots to all 4 corners of the world. The huge black bull that will eventually hold the coffin during the burning is taken to the cremation ground. The body within the tower is now also taken there. At the ground itself, a platform has been built to receive the coffin from the tower. The coffin is brought down and placed within the body of the bull. Now all will be burnt: tower, platform, the bull, and the body within it. The widow makes her final farewell. In the last century, she would have flung herself into the flames so that her soul might accompany that of her husband on its flight to heaven. The corpse is at last revealed. The finery that surrounded it has been burnt away, so that all can see now that it is truly consumed by the flames, and the prince's spirit has finally been released. Although the dramas and rituals of Hinduism contribute so much splendor to Balinese life, it is the more ancient animal spirits that seem to capture the Balinese imagination and inspire their greatest affection and their greatest dread. At Gulungan, barongs are roaming all over the island. As darkness falls, witches will be about, and if the barong meets them, there will be a battle. Men who have been praying in the temple for hours now rush out, beating bamboos to provide accompaniment for the drama that is about to develop. Inside the temple, the old man who will animate the witch's mask is preparing himself. He's famous for the depth of the trance that he falls into and the power with which a spirit takes over his body. Rangda is a dreadful figure. Entrails of dead men dangle beside her lolling scarlet tongue. With a sudden spell, she throws the men into trance. They are now hers to be used as she wishes. They are her servants. Evil has possessed their souls. But now the Barong arrives, and the eternal battle is about to begin again. Rangda puts a spell on the Barong too. But the men now attack her. Magically, she makes them turn their swords on themselves. But the Barong's magic is stronger. Push though they may with all their strength, the sharp blades will not cut their flesh. The drama is over. The men must be brought out of their trance by sprinkling them with holy water. For a moment, it had seemed that the outcome of the drama was in doubt, that there was a chance that Rangda would subdue the Barong, that evil would triumph. It has passed. The balance between good and evil has been maintained.